Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, the world was getting very full. Adam and Eve, the first people, had children, and their children had children, and their children had children too. Soon, there were people everywhere. Little towns became big towns, and big towns became busy cities. The whole earth was humming with people. It was just like God had wanted. He had told them to fill the earth, and they did. It was supposed to be a wonderful thing. A beautiful garden planet filled with God's children, all loving Him and loving each other. But something had gone wrong. A sadness had crept into the world like a shadow. You see, even though there were more and more people, their hearts were not getting more and more full of love. Instead, a different kind of seed was growing inside them. It was a selfish seed, a mean seed. People stopped thinking about God. They stopped thinking about what would make Him happy. They only thought about themselves. What do I want? What can I get? What will make me happy? They forgot the most important rule, to love God and to love their neighbors. Their hearts became hard like stones. They started to do things that made God's heart hurt very much. The world became a noisy, scary place. Instead of helping each other, people started hurting each other. They would say mean words. They would steal things that weren't theirs. They would fight and push and shout. The beautiful world that God had made was now filled with violence and anger. It was as if everyone had forgotten how to be kind. They were so busy being mean that they didn't even notice the tears in God's eyes. The whole earth was filled with darkness and trouble because people had chosen to walk away from God's light and into the shadows of their own making. This wasn't just a little bit of badness, it was everywhere. Every single person in every single city had a heart that was thinking up bad things all day long. From the moment they woke up in the morning until they went to sleep at night, their minds were filled with naughty and hurtful plans. Imagine a beautiful painting, all splattered with mud. That's what the world was like. God looked down from heaven at His wonderful creation, at all the people He loved so much, and He saw the mess. He saw the brokenness. And it broke His heart. Now something very strange was happening in those days. There were powerful beings, sometimes called the sons of God, who came down from the heavens. They looked around and saw the beautiful women on earth, the daughters of men. They decided they wanted these women to be their wives, so they took them. This was not part of God's good plan. It was another way that people were choosing their own way instead of God's way. It was a mix-up of heaven and earth that was never meant to be. This made the world even more confusing and broken than it already was. From this strange mix-up, children were born, but they were not like other children. They were giants. The Bible calls them the NEPHILIAM. They were famous and strong, heroes of the old stories, but their strength was not a good kind of strength. It was a scary, bullying kind of strength. They were big and powerful, and they probably made the violence on the earth even worse. Everyone looked up to them because they were so mighty, but their might was not used for good. Their presence was a big, giant sign that everything on earth was going terribly, terribly wrong. God saw all of this. He saw the strange marriages, He saw the scary giants, but most of all He saw the hearts of His people. And what He saw made Him feel a deep, deep sadness. It wasn't just anger like a king who is mad, it was a sorrow, like a father whose children have run away and are hurting themselves. His heart was filled with pain. He looked at the world He had spoken into being, the world He had called very good, and He was grieved. He almost wished He had never made people at all. It hurt Him that much to see them hurting each other and ignoring Him. This great sadness in God's heart meant that something had to change. The world could not keep going this way. It was too broken. It was too full of hurt. God decided He would have to wash the world clean. He would send a great flood, a big powerful rain that would cover everything. It was a hard decision, a sad decision, but it was the only way to stop the wickedness that was spreading like a poison. God knew He had to stop the hurt, but even in His sadness and His decision to bring an end to this wicked world, He was looking for a little glimmer of hope. He was looking for someone who still loved Him. And He found one. In the middle of all the noise, all the fighting, and all the meanness, there was one man who was different. His name was Noah. Noah was not like everyone else. While other people filled their hearts with selfish thoughts, Noah filled his heart with thoughts of God. He was a righteous man. That's a big word that means he tried his best to do what was right in God's eyes. He wasn't perfect because no one is. But his heart wanted to please God. He was like a single bright candle shining in a very dark room. The Bible also says, Noah was blameless among the people of his time. This doesn't mean he never made a mistake. It means that he lived with honesty and integrity. When everyone else was cheating and lying, Noah was known for being true. People probably thought he was strange. They might have even made fun of him. "Why don't you join in, Noah? Why are you so different?" But Noah didn't care what they thought. He cared what God thought. He knew that living God's way was the only way to have true peace and true joy, even when the world around him was falling apart. And here's the most beautiful secret about Noah. He walked faithfully with God. Imagine going for a long walk with your very best friend. You talk together, you listen to each other, you just enjoy being together. That's what Noah did with God. He didn't just know about God, he knew God. He listened for God's whisper in his heart. He talked to God in prayer. He followed where God led him. This close friendship with God was what made him strong enough to be good in a world that was so very bad. His walk with God protected his heart from all the ugliness outside. Noah was not alone in his family. He had a wife and he had 3 sons. Their names were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Because Noah loved and followed God, he taught his family to do the same. So, in this world that was completely corrupt and overflowing with violence, there was one little family that was different. One family that remembered God. One family that God could use to save the world. God looked at the whole earth and his eyes saw the violence everywhere. But his eyes also saw Noah. And in Noah, God saw a reason for hope. One day God spoke to Noah. It might have been a quiet whisper in his heart or a voice as loud as thunder. However it happened, Noah was listening. God told him about his great sadness. "I have seen how wicked the world has become," God said. "The earth is full of violence because of people. I'm going to put an end to all people, for they have filled the world with hurt. I'm going to send a flood of waters to destroy everything." This must have been very scary news. Everything and everyone Noah knew was going to be washed away. But then God whispered words of grace. "But I will save you, Noah. You and your family." God had a plan. It was a very strange plan, a very big plan. He gave Noah a special job to do. "I want you to build an ark," God said. An ark is a huge, huge boat. God didn't just say build a boat, he gave Noah the exact instructions. He told him what kind of wood to use, cypress wood. He told him how to make it strong and waterproof, covering it inside and out with pitch, which is like a sticky tar to keep the water out. God even gave Noah the exact measurements. He said to make the ark 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. That is very, very big. It would be longer than a football field and as tall as a 4-story building. It was to have a roof, a big door in the side, and 3 different decks inside, a lower, middle, and upper deck. Can you imagine? Noah was not a boat builder, and there was no ocean nearby. There wasn't even a cloud in the sky. Building a giant boat in the middle of dry land must have seemed like the craziest idea ever. But God's plan was not just for Noah and his family, it was for the animals too. God told Noah, "You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, 2 of every kind of animal, and 2 of every kind of creature that moves along the ground." He also told Noah to gather every kind of food and store it on the boat, enough for his family and for all the animals. This was an enormous task. It would take a very long time. It would take a lot of work, and it would take a lot of faith. So what did Noah do? Did he argue with God? Did he say, "But God, that's impossible, people will laugh at me"? No. The Bible tells us something very simple and very powerful. It says Noah did everything just as God commanded him. He listened and he obeyed. He picked up his tools and he got to work. Day after day, year after year, he and his sons chopped wood and hammered nails, following God's blueprint exactly. People surely came to watch. They probably pointed and laughed at the crazy man building a giant boat where there was no water. But Noah kept on building. Noah's story teaches us a very important lesson. It teaches us that God sees what is in our hearts. In a world where everyone else's heart was full of evil, God saw Noah's heart, which was full of faith and a desire to please him. God doesn't just look at what we do on the outside, he looks deep inside. He saw the violence and wickedness, and it grieved him. God is not happy when he sees evil and sin. It brings his heart great sorrow. His holiness means he must judge sin, but his love means his heart breaks over it. But the story doesn't end with sadness. It is filled with grace. Grace is when you get a wonderful gift you don't deserve. God could have destroyed everything, but he chose to save Noah and his family. He showed them kindness. He made a way when there was no way. This is the good news that whispers all through the Bible. Even when things are at their darkest, God always provides a rescue. He always shows grace to those who trust in him. Noah's Ark was a picture of God's salvation, a safe place in the middle of the storm. And so, we can learn from Noah today. His story is not just an old tale about a big boat and a lot of animals, it's a story about listening to God, even when his instructions seem strange or difficult. It's about trusting him, even when the rest of the world is going in the opposite direction. It's about having faith that God's plan is always the best plan. Just like Noah, we are called to walk with God, to listen for his voice, and to obey what he says. And just like Noah, we can trust that when the storms of life come, God's grace is our ark, our safe place, always ready to carry us through.